Hello, I'm Richard Edwards from MG4. Today we're going on a little bit of a road trip, a really big one actually, 1,000 kilometers. And why? Well, we want to see in a really extreme way what our long-term MG4 51 kilowatt hour can do. It's got a claimed range of over 300 kilometers, but what does it actually mean when you're trying to go and do a big road trip out there on the open road in New Zealand with all the various conditions there? And how fast will it charge in different situations? Let's go jump in the car and I'll explain a little bit more about it. What's the plan? Well, we're going to head out from here. We're at Amber and Birch Cafe in Manukau. They've got a great ChargeNet unit here. And the plan is just to hammer it down country at safe legal speeds, of course. Hopefully we go fairly deep on the first couple of runs just to get really good charging speed. Turn around, come back. The idea really is just seeing how far you can go. Now, if you were to do this run in a petrol car and not stop other than for fuel, Google suggests it's about a 12.5-hour odd run. In a electric car, it's obviously going to be a little bit longer, but it might not be that much longer than you think. So for example, this car here, I would expect in our first run, we're going to make it to 300 plus kilometers. And then from there, I think we get into some short hop stuff. So we'll just basically ride the really fast part of the charging curve. Let's get on the road and I'll probably speak to you next, maybe somewhere around Taupo. Right, so we are 100 kilometers in now. We have 64% of battery left and a predicted range on the car of 225 kilometers. So yeah, we're averaging 18.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Our consumption is a little higher because we're on the Waikato Expressway. That extra speed, it does tend to, I think, burn a little more power, but that's the balance, you know, we're moving pretty quick here at the moment. So where did the idea for this challenge come from? Well, I've stolen it, obviously. For those in the EV space, you might know Tesla Bjorn or Bjorn Nyland, really well known, does lots of road trips, and every car he has, he does a 1,000 kilometer test on. Now his 1,000 kilometer test is a little bit different. He can basically drive up through Norway or down through into Sweden at high speed, just charging as he goes. He can get some really good times. I love his stuff. Link in the top corner. Highly recommend you watch it. I wanted to do this the New Zealand way. And yeah, we don't have that many motorways. Hence, we're going to, do the 1,000 kilometer challenge Kiwi style. I need to bathroom my first. So we may as well plug in for a really quick charge. You know, we're about 44% charge of this. But an extra 5 minutes, top up, wash the windscreen, get some to eat, drink. We're on our way again. Quick stop there of 13 minutes. We were charging for 10 of those, or just short of 10 of those, and we took on just short of 10 kilowatt hours of electricity. So yeah, that's great. That's taken us back up to 59%. Now I think that's going to get us to Waiouru, which is good because without leaving State Highway 1, i.e. going into Taupo, that's the next spot where there's a really high power charger. So we have a wee bit of a change of plan. Starter one is actually closed. So I'm not entirely sure what this does to our distances, but I will have to work that out near the end, I think. We've been diverted before Taupo and we're on a wee loop back towards Taupo. So where are we at? We have covered a total of 213 kilometers. It's taken 2 hours and 48 minutes, 19.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and we are averaging 75 kilometers an hour. And we have 34% and 95 kilometers to go on the goal. So yeah, that's showing a total range of just under 300 kilometers. But bear in mind that we've just been coming up a big climb, you know, between Taupo and Taupo. Before Taupo, it is quite a big climb up. But yeah, I think we'll stop at Taupo for a hypercharger charge and then carry on from there. Right, so we have made it to Taupo. And I don't want to do a massive charge here, but I need to do a bit. So we are at about 14%. I want to go to 50%. And the reason for that is that I looked up the charge curve on the MG4. It'll run at about 50%. And that 50% should get me to the next high-speed charger, which, as I mentioned before, is Waiouru. Now, I was hoping to get there in the first place without an issue, but unfortunately, we had those roadworks. But I think what I'm actually going to do is just keep driving until the car says hit 500, turn around and come back. So we'll still make this a 1,000-kilometer test. Right, let's get this charge going. We seem to be peaking out at about 86, 87. Now, while that's doing that, I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk. Don't forget, if you are leaving your car, check in on PlugShare. And also keep an eye on your charge. I mean, if you're using the ChargeNet app to do your charging, you can check on there what it's doing. In the case of cars like the MG, I can actually check in on the app to see what it's doing. That thing, once it crosses 50%, it's going to start slowing down. And considering the number of charging options we've got, that's not necessarily the best thing. So we are ready to go now. We've got up to 68%, $23 worth of electricity. We're going to head over the hill now, the mountain in the middle. Let's jump back in the car and get on the road. Right, so we've just hit the literal summit of our drive. We're about 1,100 meters, I think I had it wrong before, above sea level. We have Mount Ruape, or Mordor to some, in the background. It is looking very moody and cloudy today. We have experienced a lot of rain, but it's not looking too bad ahead of us. So, a little update on numbers. We've just hit 350 kilometers traveled. We have just short of 5 hours drive time, and we're averaging 72 kilometers an hour and 19.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, I am going to stop quickly in Waihuru, even though I don't really, again, have to. I'm really finding that these short little fast hops of charging are really handy. Sure, you're losing a minute or so parking and plugging in, but it's not the end of the world. Right, so we are at Waihuru, but we've had a little bit of drama. Now, I really wanted to try these awesome looking New Zealand made red phase chargers. They are 200 kilowatts a stand. I understand they could be turned up late and are actually capable of 1 megawatt. But unfortunately they are, and Zed admits this, it says on the screen when you walk up to it, in, I guess, kind of prototype trial mode. They're kind of working through some bugs. And the bug today is they won't work with the MG today. Yep, that's right. We're back on a tritium. We have a tritium here, I guess, a little bit of a backup. It also supply those Chidemo customers. And we're getting reasonable speed, 72 kilowatts there. I'm going to stay here long because I want to really spend more time on faster charges. So we've made it to Bulls, but I've still got 21% battery to go. And I've only got another 27 kilometers until I've hit that 500k mark. Now I'm showing 80k's range. That means I need about 54 odd to do the loop back. So I think I'm going to YOLO it. And my consumption's been dropping. We are at 473.4 kilometers driven, 6.5 hours of driving time. I'm going to subtract some time from that, obviously, for the detour. And we're at 17.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. We have, I think, some room there. I think if we can't do 50-ish kilometers off 20%, then we're not doing that well. Right, so we have made it to the 500 kilometer mark. We are literally on the outskirts of Palmerston North. So I'm going to flick around the camera. There you go, 500 kilometers, saying 7 hours accumulated total, but I think that's actually a bit short. My stopwatch is saying more like closer to about 7 hours and 16 minutes. We've got about 30% to get back to Bulls. We'll head back there and chuck this thing on charge and get started on the return trip. So the Tesla charger was, well, a bit of a bust because the app won't let me add New Zealand credit card. For some reason my account is locked as a US account, which is weird because I don't think I've ever driven a Tesla in the US. I'll sort that out later. Luckily, at Bulls, just across the road, is good old ChargeNet, ready to go and look after me here. It's a little busy here tonight. There's a Kia EV6 and a Leaf on here as well, but luckily these 350 kilowatt chargers have plenty to share. And also, a familiar face has just turned up. Now, if you go back to our original Atto long distance drive video, very similar to this, you might remember I visited my uncle's house, Uncle Robert. He was waiting for his Atto 3. He was quite keen to see the one that we had, and here he is in his Atto. G'day, Uncle Rob.
Hello, everybody.
Are you loving the car?
I love this car. And my Margaret, she is absolutely over the moon with the car.
What do you think of the MG that I've got over there?
They look really quite Smart, actually, but not quite as good as the BYD. I think the BYD's got the looks that I like. But of course, this is always a personal thing.
So I'm just topping up there. I'm going to go and unplug now and head up to Z and Wairu. There's been a bit of an update since earlier on. Guys at Redphase actually called me and chatted about the problem, and they've gone and sent a software update through to the chargers. So they've asked me to go back, try again. We'll do that and see if that works. Right, so let's go and unplug this thing. What are we running it here? Bit of a noisy truck there. We are at 55, getting 67.4. Now it's interesting, the 64 kilowatt model next to us is getting 160k. Why can't we get that speed? I made a mistake. I thought this MG4 was faster than some of its competitors when it comes to charging. And don't get me wrong, this isn't the bad thing as such. It is very competitive with the competition. But I thought it was faster. I'd read somewhere there's 125 kilowatt charging for the 51 kilowatt hour model. I've re-looked at the UK spec for this model, and it's 117 kilowatt charging in that market. In New Zealand, a little bit different. It's 88 kilowatts, which means that this morning when I saw around 80, bit over 80 kilowatts when I was charging the first time around, that was kind of the peak. So I've kind of been chasing faster chargers when really these 75 kilowatts that we're finding in a lot of places are not that far off the peak and are doing a pretty good job. Interesting, and I will ask MG the question why our car only does 88 and the Brits get the same model with 117. Now, I did go and try the Redphase chargers again. They had gone and had a play for me to see what they could do to get them working. Got to repeat, very clear, these chargers literally tell you that they are a prototype and they're on trial and they're still polishing out a few bugs, and they are really cool units and great to see some of that being developed in New Zealand, but not ready for us today apparently. So we're back on the Tritium and we peaked on this one about 72 kilowatt. We are now down to about 41. We've got 74%, 226 kilometers of range. Because it seems to have that thing where it charges quite fast up to about 60 and then starts to drop away, I'm going to hit the road now, and we're, again, just going to keep bouncing along on those 75 kilowatt units, and there's plenty of them. Right, it's getting pretty late in the night now. It's into the morning, actually. We are in our last charging stop. Now, that last session was one heck of a trip. Over 3 hours, over 260 kilometers, all downhill, and we got great efficiency on there. I'll put the numbers up now. That section just made a big difference to the rest of the trip. I always thought we were going to have to make a couple of stops, but this is going to be the only one. We've only got 110 kilometers to go to meet the mission, but I'm going to actually put on some more distance so I can get to where I'm staying tonight and back in the morning, but I'll subtract that at the end. So the next thing you'll see obviously after this is the countdown to 1,000 kilometers, and then I'll actually go and do the sums and talk about it. Once I'm back in the studio, I'm going to add up the receipts and work out the time it took to do this, what it's cost us, and just a few little notes around the MG's performance on efficiency of the trip. One thing I will note is I've been in this car now for over 13 hours. I'm still feeling really comfortable. Now, part of that's helped by the fact that every couple of hours I'm getting up, walking around, charging the car, so on and so forth. But I think it also comes down to a really good seat. The MGs have always had really good seats. The ZSEV was the same. The entertainment system's been working well. The air conditioning's been working well. It's just been a really easy, no-hassle trip. For a car that you can, at the moment until the end of December, really drive away by the time you factor in the rebate for under $40,000. It is so impressive for what it is. Other thing I'd like to talk about is these Wii EV chargers. They are here at the Waitomo Super Site in Ruakura. They are a really cool looking unit. Great stuff here. Big touch screen, plenty of information. 87.2 kilowatts. So we are maxing out the charging of this car under the rate we understand it is now. It's been interesting. We've had so many charging options today. You know, we started with a ChargeNet unit. We've been to BP, we've been to Z, we tried a Tesla unit, and now we're onto a Wii EV unit. There's so much more charging out there now. Plenty of options, and road trips like this, sure, this is an extreme example. They are just getting to be really easy. Anyway, let's go and unplug this and get back to Auckland. 999. 1,000 kilometers. Woo! I can go to bed now. We'll get you back at the office. Right, so we are back in the office after the trip, and what a great trip it was. And I think the MG4 did incredibly well to cover that kind of distance in a day. One trip, no stops, no cooling down, just bang, bang, bang through charging and distance. Now, I have the numbers there. You probably took the numbers on the screen, but what they don't account for is some subtractions, deductions that I made for things like the diversion, issues with looking at those red-face charges, a few other things. So our total drive time for the trip was 12 hours and 41 minutes. And that compares to 12 hours and 26 minutes that Google suggests a car should be able to do that trip in normally. So I kind of feel like we've kind of got the average speed and stuff was pretty on there. I wasn't running along at 90 to try and make things go further. The time stopped was 2 hours and 25 minutes, but of that, only 1 hour and 57 minutes was spent charging. So if you look at the overall trip overall, we took about 14 hours and 23 minutes to do the trip compared to 12 hours 26 if you were to drive a petrol car and just not fill up or anything at all, which of course is pretty much impossible. So yeah, definitely longer than a petrol car, but you know, not too bad if you think of the number of times people would normally stop. Now, the difference between the time stopped and the charging time is about 28 minutes, and that's plugging in, plugging out. You know, sometimes things just overlap a little bit funny. It actually works out to only really about 5 minutes per stop, which is not too bad. Total energy that we gained on the road, 135 kilowatts, and the charging cost on the road was $105. Now, if we include the initial charge, we started from full, then we used 186.4 kilowatt hours. The average consumption was 18.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So not too bad. The average charging speed on the road was 68.6 kilowatt hours. Now, I have spoken to MG about why our cars don't charge as fast as the ones in the UK. They've pretty much said different spec, different country. I don't necessarily accept that, and I do think they should reconsider as to whether maybe they can upgrade our charging and software, or perhaps there's a hardware difference between here and the UK. And now, if you include the cost of filling up the car beforehand at home, the total cost for the trip was $125.82. Now, if we compare that to some petrol cars, we look at a Toyota Corolla Hybrid, which claims 4.4 litres per 100 kilometres. Their total would be $121.88. I honestly don't believe you could actually do it realistically the way we did in a Toyota Corolla at that cost. That would be, you'd be having to be pretty cautious to get 4.4 litres on an open road up over the middle of the North Island. If you want to look at something kind of a bit more middle of the market, the Kia Cerato, that uses 8.2 litres per 100 kilometres. So that would put the fuel cost at $227.14. Now, in comparison to the Cerato, you could even actually include 1,000 Ks of road user charges in there at the current diesel rate and still be ahead. So I think it just shows that, well, fast charging is a bit expensive away from home. It's actually not that expensive. And yeah, I think it's pretty good value for what you're getting at the moment, particularly with the higher speed hardware we're seeing out there. Super impressed with the variety of hardware and the number of charging suppliers out there now there too. So yeah, that's our road trip in the MG4 51 kilowatt hours. We have a few more videos coming on that car and a few more stories coming through the magazines. Don't forget, for more, like and subscribe below, or visit evsandbeyond.co.nz.